Counting. I'm at speed.
Okay, speed.
Hello, and welcome once again to a Film Slate of Mind. This is your host, the man who will eat 10 packets of crisps in a row and claim it's Foley, Toby. Joined as ever with the master of the gimbal, Aaron.
Nice. Hello.
How are you doing, mate?
Yeah, good. You?
Yeah, solid. Living the dream. And the man that Rat Party Security is warned about, Jack.
Hello again.
They're getting worse each
Lovely
week.
intro. Really.
Last time I
Keep me on my toes, mate. I'm enjoying it.
I think the first one I kind of insinuated you don't want to be producer. The second one I said you don't work half the year. And the third one I'm like, he's a menace at Rat parties.
Like I said, Thompson's top tips.
Top tips.
I love it. There we go. We're sorted. We're all frauds. And finally, I've got some sage advice here for you both from Tony Soprano. Let me tell you something. I'll do that again. Let me tell you something. Let me tell... what? What's happening? Whose end is that on? Is that me?
Dale, I think.
Dale. Okay, that's fine. I'll just power through because I could just cut it out whoever's recording it's on. Okay. Got some sage advice for you from Tony Soprano. Let me tell you something. Nowadays, everybody's got to go to shrinks and counsellors and go on Sally Jesse Raphael and talk about their problems. What happened to Gary Cooper, the strong, silent type? Luckily, we have our own strong, silent type here on a Film Slate of Mind. Vice President of Podcast, Dale Cheney. Welcome to the chat.
Dale Cheney.
Nice to be here, as always.
Absolute pleasure to have you as always, Dale. So, last week we left you all on the kind of end of production of Esther. So we're going to talk about post-production today and where we go from that. And then hopefully in the next coming weeks we'll be talking to you about our careers after Esther. But firstly, I want to share a little funny story I heard with you guys today in the casting call that went out for the Lord of the Rings series that is being filmed, has been filmed, is yet to be filmed. I'll just edit whichever one's appropriate at the time.
I think it's yet to be filmed.
Yeah, yet to be filmed. They put out a casting call in New Zealand for funky-looking people with long arms, weird noses, very tall. And I was like, it's one of those where you're kind of like, I want to be in the show, but I don't want to admit that I'm weird-looking.
Yeah.
And there was also a very funny thing. They posted it and they said, for the new Lord of the Rings series. And then clearly somebody in legal kind of went, NDAs. And they put the post back up without anything to do with Lord of the Rings in it. And it's like,
Oh, wow.
yeah, nicely done.
Good job.
Yeah, exactly. But, so there you go. That's the world of news. Has anybody else got anything interesting? Or should we plough on straight into post-production?
Might plough on, I guess.
Go straight in, I
That's
think.
what I love to hear. As an audio engineer, there's nothing better than let's plough into post-production. So, we left you last week on the end of Esther, so we're all knackered, by this point. We're completely exhausted. We've done a 10-day shoot, 10-day, week and 2 days?
10-day shoot, yeah.
10-day shoot. We've got the film, we're ready to go. It's time to do post-production. Aaron, going
Yes.
into post-production, did you have a rough idea of the way the film was going from the script, or like from the shots you'd already got, or was it kind of, I'll build it in the edit? Was it one of those situations?
I think it was just I'll build it in the edit, because ultimately, for me, I have an idea of what the film will look like in my head, and then the edit is really when the film comes together. And sometimes editing goes smooth, sometimes it doesn't. This time it didn't go so smooth, and it was quite stressful at times. But I think ultimately the film didn't turn out exactly how I wanted it to do, but it was basically there. There was a few minor things, but then that's the thing, you can't just expect it to be the perfect film, because there's never such thing as a perfect film.
I mean, once you've done the perfect film, you have to stop, don't you?
Exactly, yeah.
Although, actually, Danny Boyle's got a bit about this. He says that your first ever film is your best film, which I really hope is not true, because the first film I made was a Doctor Who parody when I was 7. And I really hope I didn't peak.
That's young.
My first film was basically a Tarantino rip-off, so...
There we go. So we both did rip-offs.
Yeah.
What about you, Jack? What was your first Vovid?
I think during secondary school, me and my friend, we put a YouTube video out. It was a comedy skit remaking something Ant and Dec did.
Oh.
I think it's called "We're on the Ball." It was like a football song.
That was the first
Oh my
single
God,
I ever
the
bought.
music
That was the
video.
first single I ever bought. Was that?
So me and my friend made a music video for this song, and that was like my first experience of making not a short film, but like a video project of any form, and it was fun. It didn't go like very well, but it was good fun, and that was the process.
There you go. That's what you want.
That got the ball rolling.
And Dale, where did you start?
Oh well, I mean, I've made different things. I threw together a music video in my time, but actually, when I put something together as a film, it was I wrote it, directed it, starred in it, and it was me with an old. This was in college when obviously it was all digital, and I was still filming on cassette tapes that I dusted off out of the loft, and it was me in the woods, and I just like spray painted a BB gun, and that was it. You'd have been proud of the sound though, Toby, because I was like reversing some really like satanic verses, reversed them and warbled them, and it was an alien noise. So it was a rip-off of Predator, admittedly.
so wait, can I just get this
Amazing.
straight? We all ripped stuff off, but at the time, did it
Yeah.
not feel like the greatest thing that's ever been made? Like, this is it. This is my
Oh,
Slumdog
yeah.
This is the
Millionaire.
one. 100%.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I was like
Absolutely.
thinking I'm the next Tarantino. And in actual fact, I'm not.
I was like, pretty soon, the big wigs at Doctor Who are going to notice me and get me in to direct the next episode. Brilliant. So, actually, to go back to post-production then with that little tangent, very enjoyable
Yeah.
tangent. Actually, any listeners out there, if you're listening, please send in your first ever project. We'll have a chat about that, because it's always fun to hear what people started on, what their kind of, the way they cut their teeth was, because that's a really good way of getting into the, because it's funny, because everybody is an amateur going into it, so
Yeah.
it'd be great to know that.
Exactly,
So please send it in. The social medias will be up at the end of the episode, so send it our way and we will read it out on the show. So,
Okay.
Aaron, post-production.
Yes. Yes.
What's it like when you've got this thing that I remember you said you'd had for about a year and a half before the Masters,
Mm-hmm.
and you're then taking it and you're handing it over to an editor, and to a lesser extent actually a sound editor, I suppose, as well, and you're saying, go and make my vision. Is that hard, or do you like the thrill of it, or is it just a kind of giving your child away situation?
I mean, it's hard, but then I think, as much as I like being in production as a director, because that's when you're doing all the sort of acting side of it, the editing side is really when it comes together, and I do like the thrill of that, and seeing the film sort of unfold, and then as soon as you add the sound and everything, it really like comes together. But it is quite a daunting thing going into it, because you're paranoid that you haven't got everything you need, or you haven't got the coverage, and you're paranoid that it just ultimately would look really bad. But that's where you can kind of fix the film, because editing, you can do whatever you can to fix it, really.
Yeah.
And like sound is a massive part of that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've always found, well, especially at uni, I always found, and to be fair, it's a very similar thing when you're recording a song, but like, until it's all on there, like the sound-wise, you have to turn your brain off for a bit, because it's going to be for a bit, gonna be crap, the swear jar, hey! It's gonna be rubbish for a bit, and just because stuff without sound sounds weird, or, bad sound, or camera sound. you
Yeah,
know?
well, we when I was in college, they basically said you can have really bad video, like quality, but if you have really bad sound, that's when your film falls apart. Because without good sound, the audience can't connect with it. Well, I don't really know the ins and outs of it, but if you've got bad video quality and good sound, you can have a good film, because ultimately it is the sound that's telling the story, but the picture is helping with that as well, so to speak.
I used to go out of my way to annoy DOPs, especially because we all know DOPs, like the image is everything, Shout out to Lucy, doing well out there.
I mean, ultimately, is like what's in the frame is important, but the sound in it is massive.
For sure.
Yeah, of course.
But what were you saying?
Well,
Yeah,
I used to go out my way to kind of, I'd say to DOPs, it's like, listen, you can release a podcast, no images, no nothing. Try and release a completely silent film with no music, no room tone, no nothing. Nobody will watch it. And they were always like, but that's the... And I was just like, got him, and run off. Like, got him, annoyed him. But yeah, so as you alluded to, there was a certain, a few issues within the video edit, I think it's safe to say, on the project. And the whole thing got very delayed. So let's fast forward through that, because we don't have to relive the arguments, because I don't really think anybody wants to listen to us relive arguments, although we should recreate them one day.
It's heated times.
Yeah, exactly. We fast forward through that, and the film comes to me, and it's now time for me to mix it, and I've got to mix it in surround in 5 days. At that point, I've never asked you this, and I'm actually quite interested. Are you worried? Are you like, I don't know if he can do this? Like, is this all going to go down the pan?
No, like I said, I think I alluded to it in the last episode. I have complete faith in what everyone's doing, and sometimes that faith doesn't pay off, but my faith in you and what your capabilities were paid off.
Oh, thank you.
So.
This is what this podcast has turned into now. It's just all kind of like, you're amazing, and I'm amazing.
Our heads just get bigger and bigger.
Yeah, this is all just a group therapy session for us to cheer us up, and if the listeners like it as well, brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, from my own side of it, I should probably tell, because at this point, film comes over to me, and it's then, I remember the first 2 days, I was like, right, I've got a track lay, which, budding sound people will know. If you don't know, basically at that point, it's, as it says, you lay the tracks. So you put the dialogue down, you put the other dialogue down, Foley, effects, basically everything you need to create the sound mix. And I realized during this process that nothing was synced up video and sound wise. So every single scene I have to rebuild. So I've already got a short time window, and then within that short time window, I have to rebuild every single scene. So every time somebody walks in for a door, I have to find a door noise. And there was that scene where Will's in the kitchen and he's opening the cupboards and pouring the wine. And I remember watching that, knowing that I had to do all of this. And I was like, okay, how many times does he open the cupboard? 6 times. Okay, I need 6 different cupboard noises. How many times does he open the wine? Why is he opening it twice? Why did he have to put the top back on? And you're doing like really small things like this. And I don't think I ever told you this, but there's a dog barking in that scene in the background. And that's
you did tell me that, yeah.
Oh yeah, I did tell you. Good. And I was like, can you notice why that is? And you went, no, it's fine. The reason is because there's a kind of dodgy jump in there somewhere where the bottle cap comes off and you can hear it. So I covered up with a dog in the background. And you went, oh no, I like it. It's like rough area. And I was like,
it makes sense, yeah.
No, it's a good tactic. Yeah. I agree with that.
But like that's something that I wouldn't have thought of to do. And you
thinking outside the box,
exactly.
I like it.
You got
definitely.
Thompson's top tips.
Thompson's second top tip.
I have a Toby top tip here.
Toby top tip.
It's all about the T's on this podcast. When you get a situation like that, if you get a mix dropped in your lap, or you've got all of this to sort out, the most important thing, and it's very obvious, is don't panic. Go about it objectively. Look at every single scene and go, which scene's going to take me the longest here? So I should do that first because my motivation will be highest. Look for the easiest scenes, like maybe put them last, but be clever about your sound mixing, because it's going to be really hard, it's going to be really stressful, but sitting around going, oh, I've got so much to do, is going to waste more time, And don't stay up until 4 in the morning doing it, because that just makes you sad the next day.
You want to try and keep a decent body clock and working structure if you can, without turning yourself crazy.
Well, which as we found out, definitely happened.
But really, it's kind of trying to work smart, not hard, or work smarter instead of harder.
Yeah, that's a good.
That's kind of what you did, I think, Toby. But
yeah. I tried as much as I could, and I remember the Tuesday morning. Everything's track laid by this point, and then this is where in my opinion, actually, and sorry to Jack and Dale here, my favourite bit of the whole of the production was when I was sitting in the mixing studio or the dubbing theatre, and Aaron would wander in every now and then. I'd be like, I've done this, and then you'd go, oh, could you maybe change that? And I go, great idea, and then change that, and then you'd wander out again, and that went on for about a week. We were just doing that. We were kind of building the sound mix together. And it's not to say that the others weren't involved, because I remember, Jack, you walked in once. I went, "Are you sure you're happy with that?" And then walked out again.
Just gave me food for thought as I left.
Yeah, I think that's
I know it's not my creative domain. It's not
brilliant.
my domain. I can't really step on your toes, so I just leave a little something as I'm on my way out.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's what a producer should do. Just come in, there's something, and walk away.
Because, naturally, creative-wise, you're going to be a bit more out of your depth compared to the actual creative in front of you, i.e. Toby.
Well, I mean, actually, this is a question for you, Joe, because you are more of the creative mind, I'd say, generally. But in this instance, you're working as a producer, so you come in and you have an input every now and then, because you're sort of doing a bit of ADing every now and then as well, almost. And then you're going away to sort out producery things. Was that weird? Did you find that weird at all? Or did you kind of wish you were more involved with the sound mix, or?
Yeah, to tell you the truth, I think I would have preferred to have more of a creative input in the post, but I knew taking on this role that wasn't going to be the case. So as opposed to getting down and dirty with the creative process, it was more taking a step back, and I think I remember setting a schedule of what should be completed on which day, rough guidelines, and then I kind of gave that to you two. I think that there was a document I've wrote about it in this evaluation thing I did at uni. Just reading through that. Really, as well with the Kickstarter funding rewards.
Yeah.
Spent a lot of time packaging those up, which
yeah.
is not, it's not the most exciting part of post, but someone's got to do it.
Well, this is. I mean, this could.
And that you know what, that was quite stressful as well.
This could be.
That was quite stressful because you didn't want to keep people waiting for too long.
Yeah, I waited long enough for my poster.
Oh, did you get a poster, Dale?
Did you get one?
No, he's still waiting for it. That's why he's mentioned it.
Kind enough to contribute.
Well, no, actually. So, Jack, I'm gonna say sort of summing up for so younger people getting into the industry. So, what I'm kind of saying from your experience is, yes, I'd like to be more creative involved in this, but I'm going to muck in and do this part of it because later on it will lead to me being more creatively involved. Would you say?
I think understanding those sort of parts of post will benefit me when I go and take on a more creative role in the future, for sure, because I'll know both sides of it.
Yeah, absolutely. You become more rounded.
The organising and logistics of it, that will help when I explore the creative side a bit more again.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, that's a great idea. Gather as much experience as you can.
I guess the only other thing, this is also a lot of Aaron too, but looking at what film festivals we could enter, and that was even more stressful, and for me that was the most stressful part of post. It took a long process, and trying to cut it down to specific dimensions or times to meet the codec or format for each requirement from each festival. And
as well,
it's more complicated than you'd think.
It's finding festivals that, due to the sort of theme of the film, finding festivals that sort of link to that as well. So you've got to kind of really find a good mix of festivals that not only is good for wide release or whatever, but that fit your film perfectly.
Yeah, actually, I'd like to jump in here, and this is moving later on. But again, young people listening, learn your codecs for the love of God. It's so important knowing different codecs of video and audio and how it all syncs up and what works with what. Because when I went into working in Soho, I hadn't really done that much about codecs. And you're getting films through, and it's well, this won't run on Pro Tools, and you need to convert this film, otherwise it won't run. So you're doing a commentary call for some big company's new film, and it's not running because you haven't got in the right codec. I'd really strongly stress to anyone listening, get on your codecs, learn the most basic ones.
Yeah, all that small print when you're looking at the post apps, it can seem really, really boring and dull, but just at least get the basics.
Yeah.
Not saying to scan every option of one of the pieces of software, just understand the codecs. It will help you in the long run, and once you understand them,
You're got a leg up. What I'd love is actually if we got somebody a bit older who's been in the industry for ages who's listening going, God, codecs, that's where I've been going wrong. Sorry, Aaron, you were about to say something, weren't you?
Yeah, I was going to say, also when it comes to editing, this probably comes as a no-brainer, but is logging. Like logging your footage and everything is so important, because like my previous 2 short films, I never did any of that. But that was because I was the only editor and I was doing the sound and I was doing everything. But it just comes like, it sounds stupid saying it, like 'cause it should be a no-brainer, but just logging your footage and making sure you've got the best takes possible for editing so much quicker.
It makes it, because if you're looking at a track, let's say on Pro Tools, you're looking at the track list and you know that you're working on this take, you can just go scan down, it's there, right, done. Or, no, actually, you don't even need to scan down anymore. Use the search function. If you can't use the search function, you are just there for ages going, not that one, not that one, not that one, not that one, not that one. And it's just, I mean, that will drive you more mad than a high-pitched noise for 5 days. So, Dale, actually, I'm going to bring you in here now, Mr. Cheney. Are we going to get sued for saying that all the time? We'll leave that to Jack. Yeah, they're just swearing at Dale.
Yeah, just Dick and then blank out the last name.
Brilliant. Sorry, Dale. So you were involved a lot on production, but then you get to post-production, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think your kind of involvement kind of dropped off markedly, and then you didn't actually see the film until it was pretty much almost done, I'd say, at that point.
Yeah, so I didn't really have any kind of involvement, or not just involvement, but kind of I heard about the process. I saw the aftermath. I saw the effect. I mean, I was obviously doing my screenwriting, so you will all understand what I mean when I say it was like watching you emerge from Moria, having dealt with. Yeah, it was.
Balrog.
Yeah, so it was great to see the end result and kind of see how you kind of pushed through those challenges. And I didn't see them firsthand, but I could see how particular members would, pick the other up and kind of all carry each other through it. Not carry each other, but when someone was having that bad day, a wounded in the field, it was just kind of getting through it. But you got there.
Well, I think the thing that has always helped me in those kind of situations where you're feeling rubbish about stuff, or worried about this, or how is this going to work, or this is bringing me down, is you just, like, as hard as it is to say, but you have to remind yourself what you're doing is actually really fun. You know what I mean? Like, so doing the ADR with Will was hilariously fun, and that was right in the middle of the sound mix, and I loved doing that because at this point I was, like, as we've alluded to before, there's a high-pitched noise that goes through the whole thing, and I was adding that in. So I'd spent 12 hours basically giving myself tinnitus, and then in the evening to just like have me and Will in a studio and just kind of doing the takes like that. And again, I mean, this is something else I'd say to all my sound buddies out there. If you can find a director who is happy enough in your ability to leave the room whilst you're doing ADR with the lead actor, you've done so well. Like, because it's great. Like,
I mean, in hindsight, I probably shouldn't have done that. But
no, but it was this incredible. Like, it made me feel so trusted that I could actually. Because I remember you sat in with me for a bit, and I was starting to give a bit of direction, like maybe do it like this. And after I went, yeah, you got this. I'm going to go. And that was actually felt amazing for me. Cause it's like, cool. I understand this film well enough to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's an important point as well. Like, don't be afraid to kind of. Don't give your views all the time. Like, if I'd come up to you at the end of every scene, like, Aaron, I'm not sure about the camera angle here. Like, you'd be a bit of like, just shut up, would you? But don't be afraid to every now and then go, like, do you think this might work? Because the worst that can happen is the director go, no, I don't. And then not to keep giving him ideas, But at the right time, knowing when to pitch it at the right time can really help. Because,
Yeah, and
Aaron, I think you did that pretty well, to be honest. Because, sorry to butt in there. But, you could have someone which sits behind Toby's shoulder, 9 to 5, and will be commenting on every little thing you do, and that's not giving you any, like, creative freedom. Naturally, you won't be acting yourself if you're being shadowed the whole time, waiting for a different instruction. So, like, as you're popping in and out, Toby's, like, got that time to do, like, to just use his creative freedom, and then you pop in and then just alter something slightly, or just something in there, then come back in an hour. And it really worked for you two anyway.
I mean,
it worked.
It made me long. At one point, it made me long for that moment at uni. It's obviously a different thing, but like I was doing a session in London, pitching a film. We were doing the sound record for it, and I had 4 voice directors and the actor. And a runner came in and later was just like, "You're right," because you looked a bit stressed. I came in and you had 4 directors all gathered around you in a little huddle, and some of them had like their hands on the desk and stuff. And I was like, "Yeah, you try and work under that situation." Like imagine any other job, like your managers.
That sounds really intense.
Yeah, it's horrible. Because one of them would be like, "Yeah, that's cool. Can we record that?" And then somebody else would be like, "Can you turn that up? Can you do that?" And you just be like, "I don't have 8 arms, and I think I'm about to have a heart attack, but I reckon I got this." Like, so there was a time that during that I had like a split second while they went and did something else. And apart from going, "Oh wow, this is really cool. Whoa, what am I working on?" I was also going, "I miss Aaron." Like,
I'll just pop in and disappear.
yeah, and I think it's good to give. I think it's good to give people freedom for that, but also rein it in. But this is where I'd like to draw back to you. So we've had kind of Jack, you left the sort of process of the sound mix to sort of me and Aaron. Dale, you weren't involved as such, but Aaron, out of all of us, you were involved in every single part of the film. So by post-production, are you burned out? Are you at all? Are you just kind of like, God, this is just destroying me almost?
No, like I've alluded to before, like I really enjoy the editing process because that's when the film comes together. But like, as tired as I was, I just wanted to get the film done and make it look as best as possible, and like because it was basically my. Like I'd written it and I directed it. I wanted to make it look as good as possible, and it was down on me to get it to that end game. So
yeah,
I love but I personally if I could have edited the film, I would have edited the film, but because I love the editing process.
I mean, you and me did have a chat, I think, about 6 months later about you recutting the film, and you said, "Would you redo the sound?" I was like, "Yes, but I can't do it in surround sound because I've only got headphones." Crap. Not really as impressive, is it? Going back to stereo mixing after doing surround sound is the most depressing thing you'll ever do. But well, I feel like we covered post production, we covered our roles within it. I'd like to know if there's any sort of, as we did last time, sort of funny stories from the post process. Things that happened. I'll start us off as I've got one. Because that was where I was most involved. One of my favourite moments was when I'd done the dream sequence of the car. So there's an interior car bit, and that became a dream sequence because the sound was quite difficult because of the car engine, and I'd gone a bit over the top with moving the car around the studio. So I'd had the sound going round and round in a loop, and then also the other way to really disorient people. And at this point, because I'm completely like mad with sound and I'm just like, this is amazing, you came in here just like, okay, can you tone this down just a bit? And then I kind of listened to it and kind of was like, yeah, this is nuts. Like, this is really uncomfortably nuts. So that always got me. And also I've talked about Jack, Jack's amazing. Like, I actually remember you being there for a morning once because you happened to be around the studio and you came in and joined me while I was mixing something. And you went, I was really tired and actually quite upset by this point because I've been working so hard. I was like, oh God, this is really difficult. And at one point you just went from behind me, "That's sick." And I was just like, cheers, but I have to rewind it and make sure it actually sounds all right now because you shouted over it.
I like the comment, but there's a time and place.
Yeah, you get so kind of anal about these things. But to be fair, that happened as well when remember when you and me were working on that thing, the FXU thing, and I lost the project. It almost didn't go. But then Pro Tools had done an autosave.
Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
And we had 5 minutes to get it across to the guy. And it did an autosave, and I went, yes! And you went, don't celebrate now, finish! And I was like, oh yeah, sorry. Like, yelling. We
don't have time
for this. You're just yelling at me. We're like, we'll get a beer in a minute, just finish the job. And I was like, okay.
Beer in a minute, times of the Ephesus. 5 minutes.
Literally 5 minutes. And we sprinted up to the guy and had it over and went, oh, I didn't expect it that fast. I was like, Judge, for God's sake, like. Brilliant. Was there anything else
fun and games
spring to mind to you within the post-production process, or anything like that?
I mean, I'm not going to have a lot to say about memories and highlights from the post-process. I'll keep it short and sweet. It was just making sure, without trying to sound weird, that you guys didn't go crazy and get pissed off with each other. It was about trying to make sure that the group was sane during the final stages of this.
Well,
because of like creative input was a minimal. So that was my job.
I think that's a really
Letting
good
you-
point. Let's make that a top tip. We've got 3 so far. If you are in a crew and there is something going on where you feel surplus to requirements, you're not having to do anything, work on keeping everybody else around you happy so they can do their jobs. Make that your role, because that's a really important role. Because like we said during production, like you and me, between takes, we're all knackered, so we'd start goofing off to cheer everybody up. Same with Will, same with everybody else. Really useful to have that. So that's a great point. And we'll be back after these messages. This podcast is available on many providers such as Google and Spotify. If you'd like to email us, our address is filmslateofmind@hotmail.com. You can also find us on Twitter and Instagram @filmslateofmind, where you can keep up to date with us for details about our latest episodes and uploads to YouTube. Music provided by Epidemic Sound, podcast edited by the friendly neighbourhood soundie, CC himself, Toby Cook. Welcome back. I'm glad you're still with us. That's a bit dramatic, isn't it?
I'm glad you're still with us, Mr. Bond.
Brilliant. Well, now we got it sorted. So, me and Aaron, we've talked about post-production here. I imagine we'll talk more about the creative process that we had on the sound edit and what we kind of did going forward, because, as we mentioned, this is going to crop up because Esther is mostly Aaron's child, but it's all our children. We all raised it together. We're like the extended family of this child. I don't know where I'm going with that one. But anyway,
That's a thing.
but if
That's a
we,
thing.
we have alluded.
That's a thing. That's a thing. Now.
I'm just plowing. I'm just going to plow on. We've alluded to the fact, Jack, that you weren't hugely involved with post-production. But one area I had absolutely no hand in, because I refused to, and also because I said I'm just doing sound. Protect your market, kids. Is the budgeting, the fiscal side of the project, the kind of logistics side of it. And I find it fascinating. But I didn't have any sort of hand in it in Esther at all. So what was that like? What did you have to do? What did you balance? How did you find it? Just, tell me all, Jack.
Well, the first thing we had to do during... I will, Toby. The first thing we had to do during pre-production was create a Kickstarter video, which we got our guy working as DIT to edit for the Kickstarter, and personally I thought it turned out really well. But the idea with the Kickstarter is you're basically trying to sell the film, sell the product, and trying to get funding to be able to have the creative flexibility to go and spend on different departments. So whether it's things such as props or makeup artists or costume, because we didn't actually have a specific wardrobe department. So within the Kickstarter, I think our target was 1,500, wasn't it?
Right.
And I think we shot this a couple weeks or a week before.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was a couple days before. My memory's a bit hazy. But
It was
the
about a
idea
week
was
before.
by the time it got to the end of the project, we had been, raising money whilst we were shooting, and in the background, people were checking out the Kickstarter. So, from what I remember, we actually did. I think we got just over $1,000 of the 15. I think, but
Of the 1,500, yeah, not the aiming for 15 grand.
No, of the 1,500, the 15k, that would be a feat.
Yeah.
But the largest thing you've got to bear in mind with the budgeting is the cast, and that links in with creating the production schedule as well. Because if you can get cast A and cast B, if you can get those actors in on the same days as much as possible, instead of having them pop in like separate days staggered, it's going to become cheaper.
When you say
because you're paying them on daily rates.
When you say cast A and cast B, what does that mean? Sorry.
Protagonist A, protagonist B,
Okay.
or the two main characters,
Okay.
or the two most important for those scenes.
I see.
For that day.
Okay, cool.
And it's difficult, but if you've got the main actors on the more staggered coming in and doing a little bit, you're paying a full fee no matter how long they're there for. You don't, as far as I'm aware, and how we did it, we didn't pay them per scene. We didn't pay them per hour. It was a daily rate flat fee. And then extras, we were estimating about £40 or something each. I don't know how much I actually want to talk about the actual figures, but even with the props, with our budget, we were looking at, I think, £50. Costumes 50 to 70.
Yeah.
Food and drink, fuel, that takes up a lot of it as well. After the cast, you're looking at, fuel and food is really up there.
Okay.
But obviously, as productions like a lot bigger than ours, with a lot bigger budget and a lot more departments to cover, it wasn't a super thoroughly detailed plan to make, because it wasn't a big production. There was less than 20 of us on set.
But I do think that we massively under budgeted what we should have done. Like, we should have had at least twice the budget we had, purely to get everything we wanted paid. Like, because we were only shooting for about 10 days, and if we could shoot for 20 days and still pay everything, I think the film would have turned out better, because I think the film didn't turn out exactly how I wanted it to do. But I think if we had a bigger budget and a bigger schedule, like a longer schedule, the film would have turned out better.
Yeah,
But obviously you can ask
agree.
you can ask for a bigger budget and all this stuff, but at the end of the day, we had a crowdfunding scheme, and I think 300 of the budget was my dad and my friend Tom, because they got executive producer credits and everything we were offering. So it was just through my friends, your friends, my people that I was working with at the time helped us out. But if we were asking for a bigger budget, it would have been probably harder to get that budget, but it would have made the film a lot better.
Definitely would have been more ideal, for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
But that's the thing, when you're creating these like amateur small productions, that you're only going to like learn and benefit from it. So next time me or someone else goes to do, like, if I had this role again in another production, you'd have a different perspective on it. So you just take it as lessons, don't you, and move on to the next one.
Yeah, for sure.
Just take what you know, and just keep going on.
I think there must be a kind of, desired goal versus realistic goal, So let's say you're going for 3,000, that'd be brilliant. And then, by that logic, you could shoot for 20 days instead of 10. But if you aim for 3 and you only got 1,500 and you aimed for that high and you budgeted already for that, then you're a bit up crap creek.
Yeah.
Swear jar.
Swear jar.
I think as well is, like, because we've made, for me and my friends back home in Cornwall, a lot of my friends know that I'm a filmmaker, and they're always eager to see my films. So whenever I do something, they want to see the next thing. So I think, like you were saying, Jack, like, we learn for the next one, but I think ultimately the next one, if we do a crowdfunder, I'd like to think a lot more people would try and pay into that, because they know what we've done and can trust us in a way. Like, but I think I think the budget side of it was my side of it, because I think, Jack, you were asking for a bigger budget, and I didn't want to go that high, because I just had this feeling that not a lot of people would want to pay that money. And because it was continuing, like, it was going on during production, so at the back of my head I was like,
it was a back burner.
If I was like thinking, if we didn't make this budget by the end of production, we're screwed. So
yeah, for sure.
Again, it's like, if we had double the budget, I think the film would have turned out exactly how I wanted to. But there's certain things that you can't judge and you can't predict when it comes to budgeting. Yeah,
there's always an element, isn't there, of compromise in whatever you make, no matter what, even if it's it's a film or a cake, Yeah,
but I do think what with the budget that we got, I think we did a pretty good job at allocating that money to exactly where it should go.
I mean, it's interesting, because I had no idea what the budget was for this entire thing, and like, really, when you get down to it, like, you kind of, 1,500 quid sounds like a lot of money. When you think about it, 10 days, that's 150 a day, if that. You're then paying the actors. You've mostly got 2 actors on set every day, you know. Then what? You've got fuel, and then nothing for food, and you've got to feed people. So Jack, you end up cooking 5 million pounds of pasta, you know.
I probably think me and Jack. I think me and Jack probably did go out of pocket, like without we had a little bit of budget left, but I think we were keeping that for festival submissions.
Yeah.
But I think during production we were both like, let's go get all this food.
Yeah.
Because we need it, and I think we probably were out of pocket.
That does happen if you care about. Like, I mean, me and my years and years ago went on tour with a band. And the promoter was like, don't worry, no cost, you won't have to pay anything. Ended up coming back from that like 400 quid out of pocket because we had to buy all the food and like the petrol. We're just like, we are losing so much money here. Like,
you'd be surprised how much you need. Like, it doesn't spread enough. You really need to.
Yeah.
Well, goes without saying, try to get as much as possible.
I think especially when you're a student, like, you know, somebody says to you 1,500 quid. When you're a student, you're like, oh yes, let's go to the pub. Like, you know?
Sounds like a big number. Yeah.
But really, like, it's that moment you get the appreciation of how far money goes. It's not as far as you think, you know.
But as bad as this sounds as well, it's like it's about calling in favors that you can. Like I've got a lot of creative music friends as well, and they had tracks that I was like, can I use this track for free? And they'd say like because we're close friends, or like I've done something for them in the past. And that, like, starting out, it's all about calling in any favor you can.
Think about who's in your network, because that person that you kind of got on with once every now and then, drop them a message and be like, listen, I know you design stuff, can we work on this together? And if they say no, you have lost nothing, you know. But if they say yes, you've gained something, and your network grows, you know. It's like there's no danger in it. I mean, I suppose the only danger is they kick off at you, but if they do that, they're a bit scary anyway. Why are you their friend? Like, you know. There we go. That's life advice.
But like, look at the cast. Like, Will is a really close friend of mine, and Shady is another close friend of mine. I just messaged them and said, do you want to be in it? They said yeah. And my friend Toby, not Toby, that's you. My friend Tom, he had a track that wanted to be in a film, and I said, do you want me to have it in the film? And it worked. So it's all about cashing in those favors with friends, but obviously don't take advantage of their friendship.
In my role as sound on other things, I became a bit of a kind of like, I was trying to get all my mates' music in anything I worked on, and it usually, like, people were like, no, it doesn't really fit the film. And then eventually, when we did the Tiger thing with Lucy, Jack, I shouldn't dismiss it as the Tiger thing. Sorry, the documentary about the tiger, and
which is called Gentle Giant, by the way.
Gentle Giant.
Not in cinemas, not on cable television.
Cable? Well, it's the 90s now. We're only releasing this on cable.
Shout out Lucy again. Shout out
Lucy. That should be like a weekly thing. We'll just shoehorn her in.
We got to keep her involved somehow.
When she's actually a guest on the show, we'll be doing shout-outs to her. But yeah, no.
Can I just quickly add on?
I didn't even finish my story, but please go ahead. Like,
I can't remember what you were saying after that divert.
So I was trying to get everybody's music in, and sometimes it wouldn't work. But eventually, I just got it into the Tiger documentary because I was like, "This is such a good tune. We just need to put this in." And we had nothing else to put in there, and I was just like, "It's great. Let's just put it in." So, you know, I think that is something that you could, like, on the sound front. If you have friends who are musicians, exactly like you're saying, you can go to bat for them a bit on some stuff, you know. Because if a director turns out and goes, we've got literally nothing for this, then you can go, well, I know this person does this song, and that's fine to do. Yeah. Don't do what I did on another film and say, well, I've got an EP out, let's put my own music in it, because that is a bit of abuse of power.
But as well, it's like on the music point as well, is the actual lead, like, main song in the film, Esther. I'd never really met that artist, and it was through my friend Tom who messaged her, and she was like, yeah, I want this song to be in the film. So again, it's friends of friends as well. And
it's the same that you did with I don't know, I can't remember if it was for the whole production, but you got in your friend Abby to help out on makeup.
Oh yeah, she did makeup,
and I think she also did wardrobe as well. And again, that's calling in favours of people you know. So as you're first starting out and you're coming up with all these creative ideas and you're shooting, and things will fail, things will never turn out how you expect them. But the networking from that very point, you need to carry that all the way through, because if they're coming up in the industry with you, keep them not necessarily in close contact, but calling in favours. That's never going to die out. No. That's a constant thing, which starts from when you're 16 up until
you retire.
You're very experienced up to retirement.
Yeah, absolutely.
It really is.
Well, that's a really good kind of way to kind of slowly manoeuvre towards the end. Sounds like a tank commander. Dale, do you have anything to add to that? Do you?
No, I'll just stay here in the shadows, I think. Yeah. I'll strike when the time's right.
Well, we're soon going on to post-university careers, and that is when you really come into your own, Dale.
Oh no, I'm just biding my time. That's all.
The silent man.
Biding my time.
There's going to be an episode just like what makes Dale tick.
Get that in the schedule.
But yeah, like any more for any more, as my manager says.
No, I think Jack's basically hit on the head there. Like any network, like friends or people you meet throughout the industry, keep them close, because most of my friends before I did the MA that were in the sort of creative field had said that they wanted to do something with me. That's not me being egotistical or anything. Like they've just said that they want to do a film with me, and I carried that through to the MA. And then now I've met you lot, and especially someone like, well, Jack and Toby. Like Jack's a great producer and Toby is a great sound engineer, so it's just like carrying that through. But then as well as like with Dale, is like I've always wanted to do something with Dale, like because he's a great screenwriter, so I want to carry that on to like future projects. Yeah, and I mean, like networking, like you're saying, just goes for everything. Like I got a job because I happened to make friends with a runner on a trial shift, and that got me a job for a year in the industry. You can't ever underestimate the power of networking. And next few episodes, we are in the chronology of us, a Film Slate of Mind. We are now leaving university. The rap party is done. We're not going to go into what happened there. No. Stay clear of that one, please.
Because right to swear.
Yeah.
No comment.
No comment.
No comment.
I'll see you if you mention it. And but so we've got that. That's done. We are now spreading our wings and going into the industry. And please join us next time for that.
I was going to say, would you want to say about lying in a hammock?
Oh, I mean, you derailed my outro. Wait till the episode where we review something, and then we'll talk about the hammock and the fish pond, and the palm tree. Spreading our
They're
wings.
2 shorts that you'll find on our Vimeo.
Get it animated. We are not getting that animated. Anyway, as I said, please keep listening. Thank you for listening to. Please keep listening. It's so tragic. Please don't stop listening.
Please.
Never stop listening.
This is just a shambles. Thank you for listening. It's so good to have you along on this. Thank you very much. And we'll see you next week, or you will hear us, rather, on a Film Slate of Mind. So, Aaron, it's a...
Laters.
Jack, what have you got?
See you tomorrow.
Dale, please see us out.
Goodbye.
I like it. And from me, it's goodbye. See you next week. Whenever this comes out.
Ciao. Right, stop recording.